The 987.2 Porsche Boxster should be your starting place if you have about $30,000 to spend and you're looking for the best enthusiast car in 2026. It's not because it's the fastest option or the newest, but because it still offers something genuinely special in today's landscape. It's rewarding to drive, well-built, emotionally engaging, and it'll probably feel relevant a decade from now rather than quietly disappearing into depreciation. Today's video is going to include some really sweet enthusiast-grade cars, but let me explain the magic of this particular vintage. The 987.2 Boxster represents a rare and perfect balance for used Porsche ownership. It's modern enough to be reliable and well-built, but still deeply rooted in the analog Porsche driving experience. This was the final Boxster to use a hydraulic steering rack, which is a significant contributor to the way this car drives. The hydraulic rack offers much more direct driver feedback, and you can sense the road surface beneath the tires and the shifting of the car's weight through corners. It creates a constant mechanical conversation between you and the car that modern electric systems tend to smooth away. This is also the generation where Porsche finally resolved the engine issues that haunted their earlier designs, specifically by removing the problematic IMS shaft bearing. The 2.9-liter engine in this vehicle produces 255 horsepower while being both charismatic and genuinely dependable. I mean, who doesn't love the flat six howl? The result is a unique Porsche ownership experience. Instead of worrying about what may go wrong, you get to focus on the drive itself, and this is really where the Boxster shines. With the mid-engine design, the car feels perfectly balanced. It doesn't fight you through corners or rely on brute force to feel engaging. Few cars at this price point feel so composed and communicative to drive. For years, the Boxster lived in the shadow of the 911, seen as not much more than just the entry-level Porsche. But as 911s have grown more expensive and more complicated, the 987.2 Boxster has quietly become the purest choice. It is beautifully engineered, focused, and strangely undervalued for such a timeless roadster design. For the price point, the 987.2 offers something increasingly rare, a true mid-engine Porsche that feels deliberate, timeless, and genuinely special. If you're on the hunt, we prefer the 987.2 with racing green paint, a tan interior paired with the 6-speed manual, and some tasteful wheels. Drop the top and enjoy some pure motoring. They're surprisingly durable and have aged beautifully and will continue to provide many smiles for enthusiasts. You've probably already noticed we didn't include any Miatas or GR86 products in today's video, and that's because those are common and well understood, and of course they make good choices for the value-driven enthusiast. We're stepping beyond that and looking at cars with more depth, more personality, and a little more occasion. The cars you might not have considered, and none are more controversially emblematic of this idea than the new Nissan Z. The new Nissan Z is one of the most interesting modern sports cars that you can buy right now, because much of this stems from how misguided it was at launch. When it debuted, it was supposed to be Nissan's triumphant return to enthusiast relevancy. A rear-wheel drive twin-turbo coupe that was still available with a manual transmission? Sign me up, right? The Nissan Z carries one of the most storied nameplates in Japanese performance history, so the new Z had a lot of hype, but production was slow, and dealers egregiously marked them up. And because of this, the new Z carried a lot of controversy. It became more a topic of conversation between enthusiasts and less of a real prospect for the potential buyer. In fact, these became rare to see even in real life. I've only ever seen two in the wild here in Austin, Texas since they debuted. But now in 2026, the story has flipped. Nissan continued with production, and as demand cooled, they're now one of the best value sports cars on the market, with used models only 2 or 3 years old being bought for $35,000 or less in some cases. The Nissan Z exists in a lineage that stretches back to the original 240Z. A car that defined what an attainable sports car could be. It was meant to be a driver's car that people could afford, but with enough style and performance to still feel special. The modern Z still carries that DNA, even if it wears it a little differently. It uses a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 that produces 400 horsepower in a smooth and confident way. The chassis is stiff, the steering is precise, and the car feels planted and predictable without sterility. It's pretty much a GT car, but it's refreshingly straightforward for a modern car. Now, much of that is due to the fact that it's still utilizing some pretty old bones from a 350Z, which debuted 23 years ago. But a V6 twin-turbo engine, an optional 6-speed manual transmission, and a driver-focused interior, we think that's pretty sweet. In a market full of compromised, overly optimized machines, the Z stands out by simply being honest about what it's meant to be. And at today's prices, it finally makes sense. But let's say you want even more power, maybe more cylinders, and you're willing to live with some less than desirable interior trim. The C5 and C6 Z06 Corvettes sit in an unusual place in the 2026 market, because they're no longer slightly used sports car that demand reasonably high asking prices, but they haven't totally become museum pieces either. Right now, they exist in that perfect middle ground where you can buy something genuinely special for less than the price of a family-friendly crossover. The best part is that Chevy made so many Corvettes that I don't think they will ever meaningfully go up in value. A C5 Z06 makes around 400 horsepower, and clean examples can still be found for about 25 grand. A C6 Z06 with its 7-liter V8 that makes 505 horsepower often sits between the low to mid $30,000 depending on mileage and condition. And for what you get, those numbers are hard to process. These were not entry-level base model sports cars when they were new. They were built as the pinnacle of the Corvette line. Serious, track-capable machines that even today deliver a level of speed and drama that many modern sports cars can't even start to touch. What makes them so compelling isn't just the power itself, but the way that they deliver it. The LS engines in these cars feel immediate, burly, and physical. The torque is omnipresent and unavoidable. The sheer magnitude of the power is something that turbocharged 4s or even inline 6s just cannot replicate. When you press the pedal to the floor, you experience a magically pure amalgamation of fuel, power, and noise. It's a far cry from a modern car where a computer gently requests it to accelerate politely with poise. Both the C5 and C6 feel planted and confident, with steering that is direct and unfiltered. You're not coddled driving a Z06. The car communicates what the tires are doing, and you're just trusted to deal with it. It's an experience that's direct, honest, and increasingly rare. Part of the reason these cars have such strong value right now is cultural. For years, enthusiasts dismissed these things as old man cars, but now more and more drivers are discovering just how capable and awesome these Z06s really were. That disconnect has created a great opportunity for those who can see beyond the denim facade and through the veil of cigar smoke. You can buy a car that feels outrageous to drive and costs less than a hybrid sedan. In 2026, the C5 and C6 Z06s aren't just fast for the money, they might just be one of the most visceral driving experiences you can get for under $30,000. It's fair to say that pristine examples are likely going to fetch $40,000 to $50,000, but I still think you can find them for the mid-30s. Now, we think an optimal spec of Corvette to get is a C6 Grand Sport from 2012 to 2013 with a manual transmission and the dry sump LS3 engine. We recently made an entire love letter to the Corvette. Go and watch that next after we discuss this next car. It's a vehicle that revs to 9,000 RPM, looks timeless, and is still great value, the S2000. When it launched in 1999, the S2000 was Honda doing something that now feels very deeply un-Honda-like. Instead of building another sensible, efficient car, they built a rear-drive manual roadster that revolved entirely around the joy of driving. It used a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that revved to 9,000 RPM and pushed 240 horsepower. This was the highest specific output, or horsepower per liter, of any production car engine at this time. There were no turbos, no shortcuts, just mechanical purity built to celebrate Honda's 50th anniversary. The S2000 wasn't built to satisfy a specific market segment, it was built as a statement that Honda wanted to prove that a small, lightweight roadster could still be every bit as serious and fun as more expensive sports cars. In many ways, they succeeded. Even today, the way an S2000 feels on a twisty road is unlike almost anything else at this price point. In 2026, clean examples with low miles, especially the later AP2 models with the added torque and the bigger engine, still trade comfortably for under $35,000. That makes this one of the few true modern classics you can buy without stepping into collector car pricing. Behind the wheel, it feels intimate and deliberate. The seating position is low, the hood stretches out long in front of you, and everything you touch connects you tightly to the car. The engine doesn't overwhelm you with torque, it encourages you to chase that red line and work for your speed. And when you do, it rewards you with one of the most satisfying engine notes to ever emanate from a production car. Part of the reason the S2000 has aged so well is because it's built so well. This is Honda's handiwork after all. The design is still purposeful rather than dated, and in a world where cars are becoming heavier, more complicated, and more insulated, the S2000 remains a reminder of what driving used to feel like. The Chevrolet SS is one of those cars that almost feels like it wasn't supposed to exist. It slipped quietly into the market in the mid-2010s, stayed largely unnoticed, and then disappeared before most people realized just how good it was. In 2026, it makes one of the most compelling sedans an enthusiast can buy at normal prices. This was a rear-wheel drive V8 powered 4-door performance car built on the Holden Commodore platform and sold in the US rebadged as the Chevrolet SS. Under the hood is an LS engine making 415 horsepower paired with either a 6-speed automatic or, more importantly, a 6-speed manual. A manual V8 sedan being sold in the last decade feels almost unthinkable. In today's market, good examples tend to live in the high 20s or low 30s, and the values have stopped falling because enthusiast drivers are realizing that cars like this are simply not coming back, or if they are coming back, they're at ridiculous prices. From the driver's seat, the SS feels calm and confident. It delivers a deep well of power and retains the ability to do everything from a grocery store run to a cross-country road trip without complaint. And it's an LS. It's never going to break. It's the perfect sleeper, a performance car that happens to be a superb daily driver that will attract little attention, except for those in the know. And I think that's what we all want, right? This balance is only becoming more desirable as time goes on, and I've started to see these creep up into the $40,000 plus range, so don't sleep on the Chevy SS. The second-gen Mazda Speed 3, sold from 2010 to 2013, is an artifact of the era of unhinged hot hatches. Mazda took an ordinary compact car, added a big turbo, stiffened the chassis, and then just trusted the driver to figure it out. This car is making 263 horsepower when it really had no right to. And in today's market, clean, unmolested examples still sell for around 10 grand, which makes them a great performance bargain. There are high mileage units available for far cheaper as well, but I'd probably steer clear of those. Now, they aren't holy grail rare, but ones in nice condition are getting harder and harder to find as tuners have taken their toll over the years. Hot hatches have to be one of the most abused cars of all time, and I assume it's because an entire generation of teenagers convinced their parents that they were just sensible commuter hatchbacks. No, Mom, the hood scoop is just for aesthetics, I promise. What makes the Speed 3 special is how raw it feels. There's no attempt to hide the power or polish the experience. The power comes on hard, the front tires fight for traction, and the steering wheel tugs in your hands as the car pulls all the way down the road. It's imperfect in a way that feels authentic and honest, and it's also surprisingly durable. The turbocharged 2.3-liter engine is fairly robust if properly cared for, and the interior is modest but functional. The Mazda Speed 3 provides incredible value for how hilariously overpowered it is. It's difficult to find clean examples of these since most people have modified and beat them to death, but it's still possible, and they represent an extremely unique hot hatch feeling for the modern era. The BMW E92 M3 teeters on the edge of the abyss, on the verge of disappearing into the void for all of eternity. Finding one under $35,000 is still possible, but you have to be judicious. You're buying a car that requires proper maintenance and careful ownership, but even that offers no guarantees. The 4-liter V8 makes 414 horsepower, revs high, and builds speed smoothly, and fills the cabin with a sound that feels more like a race car than a luxury car. The chassis is balanced, the steering is communicative, and the whole car feels like it was designed around driver experience. This car represents BMW at a peak moment, when performance and emotion still came first. No turbos, no electronic steering, no global optimization, or heated seat subscription services. With this in mind, it makes this car feel irreplaceable. It's probably the hardest car to own on this list, but maybe one of the most emotionally rewarding. I mean, there is a reason BMW owners are so infatuated with their machines, and I'm of the belief that at this moment, BMW was at their best. Owning a used E92 M3 is not for the faint of heart, but with the lowest of lows often come the highest of highs, and a V8 that revs at 8,500 RPM might just be the best engine in today's video. All of these cars represent a very specific kind of value in the 2026 market. They aren't just quick or fun, they were built with a very clear purpose, and that's why they still stand out years later. Whether it's the balance, the sound, steering feel, or simply the way they make you want to drive, each of these cars offers something you can't easily replace with anything new. Now, for around $35,000, this is about as good as it's going to get if you care about driving. You're not just buying horsepower or a badge, you're buying a car that still feels relevant, still feels special, and still makes sense as an enthusiast purchase. Markets change, and cars like these just don't stay attainable forever. If one of them speaks to you now, I'd recommend it's the time to go ahead and pull the trigger. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.